I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
What is going on, everybody? Got a nice early bird edition of the Fantasy Football Roundtable today. Going live at lunchtime. It feels nice to be live this early. Got the whole day ahead of us. How you gentlemen doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, but I just see a typo in my thing, so I'm going to log out and log back in.
Just traded CE for MT. Gotcha. Yeah, that probably comes off pretty bad. How you doing today? I don't know how none of us caught that to begin with.
I'm doing pretty good.
What's going on, Ray? CE for MT. That's bad, man. That's bad. I really don't know how none of us caught that. We're all just sitting here.
It's good that we're all back together, or we'll be when
CE. That's a good question. Who the hell is CE? I have no idea.
So yeah,
there
CE,
we go.
That probably works out a little better.
Yeah.
It's amazing that these offensive lines around the NFL are taking their job of protection so seriously that they're the ones taking the COVID hit for everyone else.
Yeah, that's true. They're all about protecting everybody. You gotta love it. Dennis, how you doing today? Yeah, feeling better after your grammatical error there?
Yeah, I'm feeling melancholy about the trade. I feel like it's going to help me this year as long as Michael Thomas doesn't go full AB, and his ankle's healthy. I feel like I'm going to get the most points out of Michael Thomas. It was Michael Thomas and David Johnson for CD and a 22 first. So I still have two nice pieces from that rookie wide receiver class in Pittman and Edwards. But man, CD was my guy out of that class, but I just felt like I'm third in points in that league. I'm 2-5, and I've been making trades for a couple weeks. I took a hit last week when the Cardinals game went into overtime. Kyler Murray cost me my third straight win, so I'm still a game or two out of the playoffs. But I feel like I've built a pretty solid team. Got Travis Kelce, Travis Kelce, Julio Jones, now Michael Thomas, Robbie Anderson, James Robinson, James Conner. So I feel like I've got a solid team, and the points have been there. And, it's an industry league, so obviously there's a certain amount of pride involved in winning that league. So we'll see. I could totally shit the bed.
Well, the good news is if you listened to Matt give us an update yesterday, you won't be missing that much from the 22 class.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's some good wide receivers, but I think that's kind of going to be a weaker class compared to what we're going to get this year in 2023 right now. So, yeah, I would say it's a good trade. I mean, I'm seriously regretting the Michael Thomas trade I made a couple weeks ago. I traded DJ Chark and a first for Michael Thomas for a team that I'm loaded on, and then that team is loaded, and then I've gone to lose the last 4 straight. So I'm sitting at 2-4. in a 16-team league where now looks like it's going to be a top 5 pick at the moment. So I'm not really liking that I gave that up when I could have had Clark in a top 5 pick, because it doesn't look like Michael Thomas is going to get me back into a playoff run here. So
I don't know if Dennis is right and he gets 100 targets and 75 receptions. It's going to help all 3 of us.
Yeah, he's got 10 games to go. If he comes back this week and, Drew Brees funnels the ball to him, you can crack on that slant guard Mike all you want, but, you give me 100 targets for, 1,000 yards, 75 catches, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 10 games. It's well within the realm of possibilities for Michael Thomas there.
And we all picked the Saints to be in the Super Bowl, so we need them to bounce back a little.
That's exactly why the Saints have been as bad as they have been this year. Let's talk about the other two teams.
If Bruning hadn't picked him, we'd be doing just fine with the Saints.
That is probably very true.
No, he's been the best picker among us.
You're welcome. Let's not put my picks in at times as well. So the other two teams in that division, or 2 of the other teams in that division that played last night, did not end up being the fantasy scoring fest that we wanted it to be. Maybe we should just stop saying that on Thursdays. Hope for bad games, and then they're going to end up being good. Falcons 20-5, Panthers 17, Matt Ryan 17 points, Gurley 10, Brian Hill 8, Julio freaking Jones 20, Calvin Ridley 7, and Hayden Hurst 10. Ridley did get hurt. That's kind of the big news coming out of this game. I haven't heard anything else besides his ankle injury. Have either one of you heard anything specific on it?
That the X-ray came back negative, but he's going for an MRI. So maybe good news. It looked like a lot of people were saying it looked like he got a Liz Frank injury. Oof. I would say the X-ray coming back negative seems to be more positive than that.
Yeah, I would imagine they'd be able to spot that pretty easily. That's more of an injury to the bone, isn't it, on the bottom part of your foot? So. Gurley did get banged up a little bit in this one as well. They were kind of pulling him in and out. Still scores and has a decent day for you there, again at 10 points. But Brian Hill was getting a lot of work last night. Do you guys think that's more due to Ridley getting hurt and they can't just funnel everything to Julio Jones, the Gurley injury, Carolina just being bad against the run? What are your guys' thoughts on Brian Hill?
Yeah, well, Carolina is bad against the run, which is kind of why yesterday I thought it would be good news for Todd Gurley. He wasn't incredibly effective with his carries outside of when he was in the red zone, powering his way toward the end zone. He wasn't that great. Brian Hill looked a little bit better. We've seen this a couple of times where they've put Hill in. Gurley's still the number 1 running back, and since he's seeming a lock lately for getting touchdowns, I think they said last night he's up to 6 rushing touchdowns now for the season. He's still probably a little bit of a better play, but it was interesting to see how effective Brian Hill looked against the same defense.
Yeah, it was interesting to see they took Gurley out for some really long stretches. And, they can say they're not managing his touches all they want, but if you're watching the games and you're looking at it, they're definitely managing how many times Gurley runs the ball. I don't know the benefit of it. I mean, they're what, 2-6 now? So What do they have to lose? Do they really think Gurley how long a contract did they sign Gurley to? Or
I think it was a 1-year deal.
1 year. So I don't know that Brian Hill is the future, or Ito Smith or Quadri Allison are the future there. But based on their usage of Gurley and what their actions tell us about what they think about his knees, he's not the future there either. So I think you play him and you're hoping for, a catch or two, 35, 40 yards rushing, and that he gets into the end zone, because that's what they're using him for. So he's a 10, 12 point a week guy right now, and that's it. I think that's his ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, he leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns right now, though. So I guess for this year, he's probably going to be a high-end RB2. He's going to be, I'm trying to think of what his ADP was, because it was not high. There were not a lot of people who were high on him. He's definitely outproducing that. I mean, obviously, I'm with you. I don't think much after this year you're going to get much out of Gurley. It really seems like he's kind of falling off the cliff.
For Dynasty, you probably try to find a contender and flip him, because Dennis is right. Yeah. If a 2-6 team with a guy on a 1-year contract is managing his touches, that seems like a sort of grim sign.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday. If you're sitting at 2-6 in your dynasty league like I am in a couple of mine, now's your time to sell. Get as many draft picks in that 2021 class as you can. I think you could get a second for Gurley easily from a contender because that's going to help them possibly push them over the edge. Carolina side, Teddy Bridgewater, 12 points. Mike Davis, 8. Curtis Samuel, 21. Robbie Anderson, 9. And DJ Moore, 7. Samuel scored twice, rushing touchdown, and a nice trick play touchdown as well. A little flea flicker. Yeah. Left him wide open, so he scores twice. Is he finally coming on? It was my prediction in the earlier part of the season that Samuel is going to be the second best wide receiver to DJ Moore, finally coming true. Do I start Rashard Higgins or Nelson Aguilar this week? Ooh, that's a good question.
I'm Higgins. I'm leaning Higgins. Gosh, I wonder if I even ranked Aguilar. I think I did.
I'm going with Aguilar. They're going against the Browns.
Yeah, but I don't think either one of those. Have you seen? It's supposed to be like 40-mile-per-hour winds. I don't think this is going to be a high passing game. I really don't. I think it's going to be Jacobs Hunt all day long. I just saw that earlier today. There's a chance of rain and high winds. I'm not expecting either team to throw a lot.
Yeah, I got Higgins ranked to about 15 spots ahead of Aguilar. I know Aguilar has looked surprisingly good this year, but I guess I'm still not a believer.
Well, so here's what worries me about Aguilar, Levi, is that there's talks that Bryan Edwards may be back this week. And I don't know if that really affects Aguilar too much, but I do think they'll get him on the field, which could in the end mean less targets for Aguilar. The rumors are, Ray, that DJ Moore did something with Joe Brady's wife. It's not confirmed or unconfirmed. I don't know what he did to him outside of that, though. But no,
the truth
Robbie
is,
Anderson, man.
Some of us started ranking DJ Moore above everybody else again, and so he had to remind us that that's not a good idea.
Yeah, the problem is Joe Brady couldn't get DJ Moore on any of his fantasy teams, so he got Robbie Anderson. He said, "Screw this." Is it time to hop off the Robbie Anderson train? I started him over Curtis. I mean,
he got the most targets. He like even when they put PJ Walker in, he was going to Anderson. That deep touchdown attempt in the end zone was to Anderson. He seems to still be getting the focus. He doesn't always pull them all in.
I know I feel like this may be a little bit rude when I say this, but promise I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say this. You can't use revisionist history last night for the Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson. Starting Robbie Anderson was the right play. I jokingly talked about starting Curtis Samuel yesterday just because I thought he was going to be good, and then he went off. I did not expect that to happen. I really didn't. Nobody in their right mind was starting Curtis Samuel over Robbie Anderson unless you were someone who had a ton of buys and a ton of injuries this week. So it was the right call to start Robbie Anderson. He's still the one, like Matt mentioned. He's getting all the targets. It was just one of those games where it was Samuel that went off instead of Anderson.
Well, I know Jen Piacenti from Fantasy Alarm on Sirius XM yesterday was talking about Curtis Samuel, and she slotted him into the captain spot last night.
She probably made a lot
circled
of
back
money
with her. I circled back with her to see if she actually did it, and she was like, "You betcha."
Well, good for her. Yeah, I mean, in my home dynasty league, someone started Curtis Samuel in their flex spot, and I was just like, "Wow, that was a bold call. You got some balls on you," because I wasn't starting Curtis Samuel whatsoever, and I love the kid. So, would you recommend
why
starting?
Would you start him in a flex spot on a Thursday? You put it if you're going to start him, you need to stick him in that wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yeah.
For the question, I would play P. Ryan over both of those receivers.
Really? Okay.
Over Higgins and Aguilar.
After I was talking to P. Ryan all Monday, Tuesday, and you're like, I don't know.
Frank Gore hurt his hand, has been out of practice.
Oh, see, I did not know that.
Days. They're playing the Chiefs, who we saw what happened when Denver ran against them last week.
I still kind of feel like the Chiefs are going to put up 35 points in the first quarter, so.
And the Jets are still going to hand the ball off because they don't know what.
No, that's true. Adam Gase is an idiot. It could be 42-0. He'd be like, here you go.
Crowder's not practicing. Rashad Perriman's out with a concussion. Yeah. It's not like they have a wealth of wide receivers. And have you seen Sam Darnold? If you had the option of,
Mims is back, and Mims looked good last week. So could be a Jeff Smith. Who's that? Lawrence Cager, Denzel Mims kind of week.
It'd be close for me I would not start Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray was like a 1 week play last week because of the matchup they had. I would, if I had to choose between those two, I'd still go P. Ryan over Murray. man, it's just tough for me to say P. Ryan over Higgins. I really think he's going to have a huge role this week. He got the start. I think people are going to focus it. The Raiders are going to focus in on Landry because he's the next guy up kind of thing. I think that's going to leave Higgins open some.
But if you do start Lawrence Cager, please take a picture of it and send it to us.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, so let's get back into the Panthers here. Samuel, is he coming on? Is this, we've seen the last 2 weeks before this, we saw it was DJ Moore. Now it's Curtis Samuel. Are you buying into either one of those, or are you still sticking, golly, his name just jumped out of my head, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore as the top guys?
I think it's Robbie and DJ, the top guys still.
Yeah.
I think Curtis, I think what we're seeing is they're definitely in a position now. They're scoring points, and it's good for fantasy. Brady's whole philosophy of offensive production is starting to show. I mean, they slotted Mike Davis into the Christian McCaffrey role and didn't miss a beat. And aside from them not using their tight ends, womp womp. I think that their top three receivers are, two top 20s, and I'd say Samuel is consistently probably a top 36 now.
You make that joke about not using the tight ends, but for a while there, it seemed like Ian Thomas was going to outscore TJ Moore, which much to the consternation of Twitter. The other thing I would say is Samuel has scored 2 of his rushing touchdowns. It feels like his doing well has corresponded more to Mike Davis coming back to earth a little bit. Do they do those kind of trick end around run if McCaffrey's there? Essentially Curtis Samuel has scored on 2 end arounds and a flea flicker. So it's not, well, that's good. And while it was nice to see him getting involved, it's not exactly like, hey, they pounded him with 10 targets 2 weeks in a row and he's making the most of it. It's kind of been these big or specialized plays. I don't know if you can count on that week to week.
Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what we talked about yesterday, right? Was that we saw him when Mike Davis started to falter, Curtis Samuel was getting that work in the backfield. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not sure that you can trust it moving forward, but it's nice to see it out there. I talked about in the preseason, I was really big on Curtis Samuel. I thought having a guy like Joe Brady here with Carolina could help kind of unlock the potential that he has. And we're getting to see it a little bit. I would still not sit wide receivers. I'd not see the wide receiver part. Oh yeah, I kind of think I would. The only one I really trust playing is Zeke. Yeah, I mean, he did have that one nice connection with Cooper. Cooper will be the one. And the Eagles, the one thing that worries me, the Eagles have one good defensive player outside of their front line, and it's Darius Slay. And I wonder if Slay lines up against Cooper.
Then, I bet he takes Lamb.
You think so?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it. If you're still watching in a minute, Levi, we will get to the Dallas game, and we'll kind of give you an idea of where our rankings are there. So, yeah, all in all, great game for the Falcons. They get to go to 2-6. They finally hold on to a lead. Get a lot of questions today. Should I look at trading Mike Davis now or no? Now, as soon as you can. Now. I have, with the way that Davis has kind of fallen off the past couple weeks, I do not see any shot he splits the backfield when CMC comes.
Yeah, and I don't think they want to do a backfield split, but it's been 3 weeks in a row now where Mike Davis has he's been fine, but not exactly incredible. I would say that, especially since they're starting to use some of their wide receivers and stuff for rushing plays around the goal line, that, you may have even missed your window on getting max value for Mike Davis. Because I tried to flip him 3 weeks ago to the CMC owner who had no running backs, and it was a tough sell.
Yeah, you're not going to be getting much for Mike Davis now. We're at the end of that run. He'll be moving. He's moved into the role now, probably starting next week as the most important handcuff in the league. But as far as standalone value, when CMC comes back, I think that's gone away.
All right, so the previews. Let's go 2-4 Patriots against the 5-2 Bills. For New England, we've got Cam Newton coming in at 21, James White at RB 32, and Damian Harris at RB 33. No Edelman, probably no Harry, who is still in the concussion protocol. You playing anybody on the Patriots? Do they even stand a chance to beat the Buffalo Bills?
I think you're playing Cam in Superflex. They don't have anybody to throw the ball to, so this is a 10-12 rush game. I think you hope they get lucky with their defense and put that offense in a short field or two, and maybe Cam can get you a rushing touchdown. But yeah, that offense is turning into a group of desperation plays.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Whenever Belichick's your coach, you have a chance. Cam seems pretty fired up after last week, put a lot of pressure on himself. I'm wondering if their offense will look a lot similar to week 1, where we're just going to have to go to like ground and pound, and our best running back is our quarterback.
Yeah, I am with you, Cam. I just realized that makes it a little bit better because that's your body right there, and that's my body right there. It's kind of weird out there for a minute. Anyways, now you can be the host of the show, Matt. I'll just sit here and relax like I do on that Debbie show. Yeah, I'm with you guys. It's Newton. Don't trust White. I mean, as much as I'd love to trust Harris since I traded away my fucking future for him, it doesn't look like that's going to work out for me. So it's just Cam for me. Buffalo side here, Allen coming in at QB7, Zach Moss at RB29, Singletary RB31, Diggs at wide receiver 11, and Cole Beasley at wide receiver 29. We have seen not just the Bills offense, but Josh Allen struggle here a bit of late, going up against what's usually a tough New England defense. Do you guys think that they can turn it around this week?
Hope so.
I think that McDermott has shown himself to be a pretty good coach and resilient coach, and I think he'll put the team in a position to do well. John Brown, I think I saw, is healthy. I don't think he's going to miss the game. Gabriel Davis, when John Brown is out, has stepped up and played really well. So they have 4 quality wide receivers now. And Tyler Kroft filling in for Dawson Knox. Well, they're not getting a ton of production out of the tight end. From an NFL standpoint, they're kind of converting those short first downs when they need them. Cole Beasley is playing lights out this year. He may, if they gave an award for the best slot receiver this year, it might be Cole Beasley. He's dropping some of them 10-catch, 100-yard games with seeming regularity. So
he's looked really good.
Yeah. I'm not sure, their running game seems is pretty inconsistent. And then Allen, much like Cam Newton, is taking the goal line carries. So if I can avoid starting Moss or Singletary, I think I do. But I'm comfortable with Beasley, with Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen.
I think the word you're looking for to describe their running game is non-existent, not inconsistent, because it's been a brutal slog. Our friend Ricky was trying to decide whether he wants Singletary or Latavius Murray rest of season, and I was looking at it like probably Latavius Murray, because it seems like Moss is a better choice than Singletary, but neither of them would you feel too excited throwing them out there. They need to get back going a little bit stronger. Even last week in what we thought would be a get-right game against the Jets, they threw for quite a few yards, but they couldn't even produce a touchdown. If Buffalo really wants to consider themselves a contender, let's set aside the East for a minute. They could probably middle of the road their way to an East title right now. The Patriots have major problems. We don't know what Miami's going to look like going forward, and the Jets don't exist. So it's not worried about the division, but if they want to be a contender, they didn't look good against the Titans or the Chiefs, the two kind of really bigger teams that they've played, and they didn't even look that good last week against the Jets. They got to get back to that formula they had the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I hope that they do, obviously. As someone who really likes Josh Allen, Diggs has seemed to struggle a little bit as well. The only one that seems to be consistent is Cole Beasley, like Dennis was just talking about. He's the savior of my Scott Fishbowl teams, and I'm still losing on those right now too. But that
was what Bob Lung told us in the.
That is true, and that's exactly why I drafted him. I think I got him in like the 15th or 16th round of the Scott Fishbowl, and he's been an instant starter every single week. In fact, I'm probably starting him in my main dynasty league this week because Hopkins out. It's between him. I can't remember who else. Him, Guyton, and somebody else. There was someone else who has much better value than Guyton. I was like, you know what? Just go with Cole Beasley. He's to save 10 points every single week. So he's been awesome. Our Thrive Fantasy prop for this game, 302.5 total yards, I'm guessing, pass and rush yards for Josh Allen. As much as I hate to say this, I am going under. I don't think this is going to be a get-right game for the Bills. I think this is going to be another tough game.
Yeah, I think Belichick puts that defense in position to play really tough. And, Allen may get a touchdown or two on the ground, but I don't think he's going to get a ton of yards. And, actually, is Gilmore? Gilmore's going to be out, isn't he?
Gilmore DNP again today.
Yeah. So that changes. That may change things up a little bit.
There's rumors he's being held out to be traded.
I saw that. Right. So a lot of people think he's coming to Cleveland.
If Gilmore is out, if Gilmore's out, I think I might definitely hit the over on this. I think that could definitely improve the passing numbers. So I'm gonna say over.
Yeah, with it being pass and rush combined, I'm gonna take the over.
All right, and then who are we picking to win this game? I am taking the Bills, even though I do think it's going to be close.
I'm taking the Bills.
I'm taking New England.
All right, Dennis sticking with his call on
Cam Newton truther. Cam Newton.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Titans 5-1 against the 1-5 Bengals. We've got Tannehill coming in at QB8, Derrick Henry coming in at running back 2.
1-5-1 Bengals. 1-5-1.
1-5-1.
Don't deprive them of their tie.
I apologize. Derrick Henry coming in at RB2, A.J. Brown coming in at wide receiver 4, and Jonnu Smith coming in at tight end 4. This could be a very high-scoring game with as bad as both defenses have looked at time. Do we think Davis or Humphreys gets any play here?
Davis, he looked good finally coming back, seems to be healthy. There's definitely a history of consistency issues with Davis, but I think Cincinnati's defense is so bad, they don't get any pressure on the quarterback. So Tannehill is going to have plenty of time back there and will be able to pick them apart. So I like Davis as a flex play. I think Davis will outscore Humphreys, but I wouldn't hesitate. I guess if it's a deeper flex, say 3 flexes, Humphreys is definitely in play.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Davis have some decent games. They seem to be going to him a little bit last week. I think I would prefer him over Humphreys, and I think he could be a decent flex play this week because they're going to have to put up points. A.J. Brown missed practice again Thursday. Gives me a little bit of a pause. I think they're probably just precautionary.
But that's what it looked like.
Yeah. So I think Davis has a shot. Jonnu Smith's still kind of working himself back into full health, and we have Brown still kind of dealing with stuff. So Davis coming back off the COVID list looked really good last week. I think he's actually looked surprisingly good this year. I believe he's in a contract year, so maybe that's been a little bit of motivation for him.
That'd be a big no for me. I'm going to go ahead and ride the A.J. Brown and Jonnu Smith train also because I think Derrick Henry is going to run wild all over the Cincinnati Bengals defense, so I'm not sure how much passing is going to get done. As for the running back question here by Matt, I'm sorry, Matt, I will not say your last name because I'm horrible at pronouncing last names and I don't want to offend you. So for Matt here, DeAndre Swift or Darrell Henderson is your RB2 full point PPR. I am going Swift. I have Swift higher. Dennis, Matt, what about you?
Yeah, I would do Swift over Henderson.
The name is fucking Daly.
Well,
there's no string of consonants.
Okay, so here's the thing.
There's
here's
no
the thing. You said Daly. I was gonna say Matt Daly. That's because I'm bad at pronouncing names. That's why I don't do it.
Hey, pronouncing's not what he's doing.
Vowel.
Exactly. It's
Long,
in the intro.
The first vowel is long. Daily.
Pronouncing
if it was
is not what I do.
then it would be a short day. Jesus
I'm having
Christ,
high school. I'm having high school English flashbacks right now.
It's horrible at everything.
It's not guttural fiscally.
You know what I'm good at? I'm good at transitioning to topics.
Zacharias.
I can't read. I can't write. I can't do math. I'm horrible at everything but transitioning to topics. So
it's good that in this new reality, you get to be your primary teacher for your children.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, I don't. That's why I'm glad my son is virtual learning right now, right next to me, because he would be screwed if I was his teacher. Ingram or Tanyan this week? I am going Tanyan. Giants have a very tough matchup. I don't think Ingram produces. So.
Well, and they might not have an offensive line. They didn't do well with an offensive line, so I would go Tanyan too.
Yeah, Tanyan's the way to go with that.
All right. Oh yeah, I forgot. That's right. He changed. He pronounced it's Tunyon. I forgot about that. I will say it right now that he's come out correcting everybody. It's Tunyon, like Funyuns. It's Tunyon, like Funyuns. That's the way he said it. Yeah, I had no idea. He actually
that actually doesn't make sense based on.
See, that's why I don't attempt to pronounce names, because I usually do it wrong. All right. Anyways, Tennessee.
How do you pronounce the word Ton?
Ton? No, ton. I'm just kidding. Ton. Yeah. Not right. I guess it makes sense. Whatever. Anyways, let's move on. Cincinnati. We've got Burrow coming in at QB 11, Giovanni Bernard at RB 10, Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 10, T. Higgins wide receiver 21, and AJ Green wide receiver 31. Looks like Mixon is tracking to miss this game as he did not practice again today. Looks like all of us have Bernard very high. I think I had him ranked literally at 10. So looks like you guys were either right there with me or right behind me. What are you guys' thoughts on him in this matchup?
He looked good last week. Dennis, you're muted.
I think Gio's a plug and play. I have him up at 8. I feel like Joe Burrow is probably going to chuck the ball 60 times, and Gio's likely to get 7 or 8 targets along with 15 carries. So he's going to get the volume. Who's their backup? You know, I think we all believe it's Travion Williams, but I think that isn't there some vet in there?
It was Samaje Perine.
Yeah, it was
that's
Perine
right.
last week. Yeah.
So as much as I would love to still be on the Perine train, I am not. Unlike some other players, I don't think got a fair shot. I feel like Perine got a fair shot, and the fact that he's still in the league is quite surprising to me. I think Gio is good for a good game here.
Yeah, I think Gio will be good too. I had him up fairly high. I think he's a good start. I think the receivers are too. Tennessee has been a good team and they have a good record, but they haven't exactly had the the greatest defense. They've gotten into a lot of shootouts. Even when they played the Jags, they allowed 30 points. So I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in this one.
Yeah, I actually think, Gio, even though he kind of struggled against the Browns defense last week on the ground, they do have a good rush defense. He did get a lot of work in the air in the receiving game, which I don't think Piron's going to get a lot of. So if that happens again in this one, which is again where I think you can beat Tennessee, I still think they've got a good front, but that secondary is just bad. I think Bernard's going to get enough work. I'd definitely go Boyd Higgins. I'm still not that big on Green. And it doesn't seem like anybody is. We've all got him down here at 31. So imagine he might.
This is their last chance, though, to try to pump him up and get him traded on Monday. I still think that's what they're trying to do.
Pick one flex, full point PPR, Justin Jefferson, Robert Woods, Deontay Johnson. I am going Justin Jefferson. I think he's got the better shot for a shootout there against Green Bay. And I think Jair probably locks up with Thielen on that one. Deontay Johnson would be my next one, but Baltimore's defense scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, Baltimore's got an awful lot of good defensive backs there in Baltimore. I guess the only thing that gives me pause about going Jefferson is that while Alexander's likely to go with Thielen, Thielen has worked him over pretty good historically. Thielen does pretty well against J.R. Alexander.
Yeah, I'm still going with Justin Jefferson.
I mean, I want Deontay Johnson.
But this is more of a commentary.
Have a great game.
This is more of a commentary about what we talked about, that Woods and the Rams' appeal for fantasy has diminished this year. Because I would think last year. Go ahead.
I have Jefferson at 9, Woods at 12. So,
I mean, I like Woods. Yeah, it goes back to like Matt was just saying. We're pretty. They just don't seem to want to throw the ball all over the place like they have the past couple of years. I think that limits everybody on that Rams offense, unfortunately. Who we picking? I'm taking the Titans.
Yeah, I'm Titans taking for Titans. Me as well.
All right, on to Raiders and Cleveland. The Las Vegas Raiders come in 3-3 against the very surprising 5-2 Cleveland Browns. For the Raiders here, Carr coming in at QB 16, Jacobs RB 12, Aguilar wide receiver 36, and Waller tight end 3. Not a great matchup here for Jacobs. Do we need to see more out of him? Do you expect to see more out of him? As I mentioned while we were talking at the beginning here with the start-sit question, rumors have it on. Dennis could probably tell us better because he actually lives there. But last I saw weather-wise, there's a chance of rain and heavy winds, as in 40 to 50 miles per hour. That is going to inhibit passing games, which means they're going to have to rely on Jacobs.
You know, the wind is something that definitely is a concern, but there's enough short passing game in the both the Raiders and the Browns arsenal that I don't think it's going to necessarily cut down on the number of total attempts. It may cut down on the ADOT, depth of target, but both teams have players that can make things happen with the ball in their hand. So if Ruggs and Edwards or Renfro, you know, these cats, Waller getting the ball, you know, on 5-yard passes instead of 15-yard passes, Higgins, Hunt, Bryant, Njoku, Landry, you know, that short passing game for both teams could really end up being a big thing. Teller is going to be out again for the Browns, so missing that the PFF number 1 ranked guard going into last week is definitely going to be an issue.
Yeah, and so there's 2 things that would be troubling if I thought that Jacobs was going to bounce back. Really, I guess 3 things. One, we haven't seen, you know, even though it seemed like all the evidence was pointing to him being involved in the passing game, and even though nobody else is really taking a lot of passing game work out as a running back, that hasn't been a big part of his game, which hurts because most of us play PPR format. The Browns have a pretty decent defense against the run. You know, they've struggled more against the pass than against the run. And the Raiders, Trent Brown, I think, is still out with COVID 1 more week, and they've had other injuries along that line. That line isn't what it was at times last year, so I don't know that puts them in the greatest position, elements be damned, to rely on a power running game. They could try, but I don't know if they can get that done. It would be nice to see Jacobs bounce up a little bit more. He started the season so hot, but now it seems more like that was a product of playing Carolina than it was indicative of maybe where this offense is at in general with the running game.
Well, so the Raiders are 5th in the NFL in running back target percentage at 26.7%.
So then why isn't
somebody
Jacob
in that backfield
more?
It's for somebody in that backfield. Is getting targets.
Yeah, it's Rashard. Jacobs isn't getting that many, which is surprising. So I have an interesting little trivia question for you guys here, because this kind of goes to my points here on Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has played 20 games in the NFL so far this his past 2 seasons. How many times has he gone over 100 rushing yards in those 20 games?
Twice.
4 times.
You guys were a lot closer than other people guessed. 5. I just don't think he's he's a good back. He's not an elite back. And that's kind of always been my argument against him. I think, and I know, Dennis, you were kind of on this with me last year. We were not two people who were very high on Jacobs coming out of college. He didn't show it at Alabama, but because he's had a couple good games, everybody wants to put him up in that elite category. He's just not an elite back. There's nothing wrong with saying that. He is a good running back. He is if you want to talk fantasy sense, an RB2 for fantasy. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. He's a really good back. I don't think that he's going to be that good. What, Matt? What do you got?
So I'm looking at his stats after Dennis mentioned the targets. It looks like he's getting like 3 or 4 targets a game.
So I know that they've gone to Rashard a lot. Whatever that was, it against the Saints, I think, the primetime game, Rashard was out there a lot.
So Jacobs has gotten 24 targets and Rashard has received 13.
So why is he not?
Alec Ingold, 8. Booker at 7. So, but Jacobs has caught 75% of his targets. He's caught 18 passes for 122 yards.
It just doesn't seem like
his production is down. He's averaging 3.4 yards per carry.
And that's probably a product. I mean, they have had some significant injuries on the line. They lost Incognito for the season. Brown's been out. I mean, that was a real strength, I think, for them last year, was their line was sometimes the immovable object, and that hasn't really been the case.
But yeah, I do not think that he is going to be that good this week. Though from what I've seen from that Browns rush defense this year, I truly believe they've been able to really shut down everybody. Even for the most part in that first game against Baltimore, they did a good job of stopping those running backs and Lamar up until the second half when Lamar just dominated them. But they did a good job, and they've done a good job all year. So it's going to come down to the passing game here. I'll be interested to see. I think Waller is obviously the clear one on the Raiders side here to play. He's got the prime matchup there, especially if they try and put Sendejo on him because he couldn't cover me running down the field. On Cleveland's side, Baker coming in at QB 12, which I like. Thanks, guys. I need him to start putting up some points so I can win that money. Wide out, not Kyler Hunt, Kareem Hunt, RB3. Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 18. My God, I can't think. Harrison Bryant, tight end 18. David Njoku, tight end 21. Are we expecting a big day here from Baker with him going up against a bad pass defense? And can Harrison Bryant repeat his performance from last week?
I would probably – I'm not betting on Bryant getting 2 touchdowns. So I feel like – Higgins is going to get some work, but Bryant and Njoku both are going to play a substantial amount, and both of them are playing very, very well right now. So expecting Bryant to score 2 touchdowns, probably not, but I think it's as likely that each tight end scores a touchdown, I think, as anything else. When they get down lower, closer to the end zone, I don't know that Jarvis Landry is necessarily a red zone threat. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out without Odell here. I know that, in my opinion, when Landry first came over and they tried to use him on the outside, I don't think he was as successful as he expected he would be. So having who's the third receiver now? Because Hodge is out. So it's Donovan Peoples-Jones. So, I'm not expecting, a 10-target game from Peoples-Jones either. All Higgins ever does is produce. For whatever reason, they keep trying to stick people above him on the depth chart, and whenever he gets in, he just makes plays. So I would expect that to continue. I think Baker will have a good game. I guess we have him up at 12 as a QB1. So, let's roll it. Where do I have him at 13 in my rankings? So,
well, and I think the weather conditions probably dictate, they have an incredible pass catching weapon in Hunt coming out of the backfield. So if you're talking about a lot of short passing, maybe even to supplement running game and help move the ball, even more reason why we have him so high. I think this could be a really good game for him. I think you've had a good point about Bryant. Both those tight ends will probably be involved. It just seems like he might be the better play of the two.
I want to know who was all in on Baker. I have him at 16. I thought I had him higher. I do not have him that high. It must have been Matt and Ricky had him high. One of you two had to have him high to jump him up to 12 if Dennis had him at 13. Higgins, to answer Dennis's question there, it seems like a lot of the reports have come out that just Higgins was never good in practice. And because he was not good in practice, this new coaching staff wasn't sure what to think of him. But he's right. Every time he's on the field, he produces. Well,
We're talking about practice?
We are talking about practice.
I had him at 13. Ricky had him at 11. I think it's more the fact that we were probably more split about other people. So the cumulative average. So we all have them right around in the range between 11 and 13, except for you, which apparently I didn't realize you dropped him all the way to 16.
I mean, I like a lot of quarterbacks this week. I like Baker. I hope he puts up top 12 numbers. I need him to finish as a top 12 QB this year to win that money. So, Higgins, he just has that connection with Baker, which is another reason why I was kind of leaning toward him in the Aguilar thing. When he's on the field, he just produces with Baker, going back to his rookie year, last year when he got on the field and the 2 games Freddie Kitchens started him. And then we even saw it last week with that great catch on the sideline that set up the touchdown or the spike and then touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones. I like Peoples-Jones. I think he's going into that Z role where Beckham plays. I don't expect him to be a huge contributor. I think it's going to be Landry, Higgins, and Bryant. And I will go opposite of Dennis and say I think Bryant does get 2 touchdowns again on Sunday. I think he's going to be the guy. Baker, you go back to the Mark Andrew days in college. He loves to target his tight end with no Odell. They're not forcing the ball to anybody. Bryant runs like a wide receiver out there. If he ends up getting open, Baker's going to hit him, and Bryant, we've seen, can catch the ball. He's very good. I think he gets another 2 touchdowns this week, and I am going with the Browns. Who are you guys taking?
I'm taking the Browns.
The Browns as well.
I'm curious to wonder what your difficult situation here is, Miles. And depending on what you put, it may not pop up on there. If it's fantasy related, I would love to hear what you've got your situation into, and we will try and help you out. Oh, here we go.
Oh, no, he did.
Do I start Bernard, Higgins, or Green in the flex? All Bengals players. I am starting Bernard over those 3. Higgins would be close for me. Green, don't even think about it. What about you 2?
Yep. That's the order I would have them in.
I would start Higgins, Bernard, Green.
Interesting. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, Miles, in case you weren't here as we did our Bengals preview, we all have Bernard in the top 10 at running back this week. Higgins was 21, I think. So, I mean, Higgins does have – the Tennessee defense is worse against the pass than they are the run. So I do expect Bernard to get some work in the passing game. That's why I put him there. But me, Dennis, Bernard, Mr. Fox over here is going with Higgins. All right. Next up was it Detroit too? I actually closed out of my
Detroit, Indianapolis.
The 4-2 Colts versus 3-3 Lions. For Indy, we've got Jonathan Taylor coming in at RB7 and Trey Burton coming in at tight end 17. Rivers has had his best passing game in week 6. Will he pick it up here again against a poor defense in Detroit?
No, I do not believe he gets another 300-yard passing day.
Yeah, it's tough for me to, Rivers is one of those guys right now that I'm looking at in dynasty leagues and trying to figure, all right, in a super flex, if I only have 2 quarterbacks, do I want to see if I can get Rivers for a third to cover my bye weeks? And I keep ending up at no. I'm like, you know what? I think if I got to spend a 3rd round pick on Rivers to cover my quarterback super flex bye week, I think I might just start a wide receiver or running back in the super flex. At least I feel like there's a better.
I'm not trusting Rivers for anything. He has not looked good at all this week. I mean, I think
he's killed T.Y. Hilton's value. Yeah. Marcus Johnson and Zach Pascal aren't the answer.
I don't.
It's rough.
I mean, for me, it's Taylor. Like, I would even hesitate starting Trey Burton. Like, for me, it's Taylor in hopes that he continues to get some passing work. We saw Todd Gurley had a good game against the Colts. The
Lions.
The Lions last week. Yeah, Taylor plays on the Colts. Why would he have a good game against him? So I do think that he could have a good game here against the Lions. He's the only player on the Colts offense I'm starting. I am excited to see if Pittman can get back out there, though. He was out there practicing. I don't think he plays this week, probably next week. But I'd be excited to see him get back on the field. He's a rookie we all liked. On Detroit side here, Stafford coming in at QB 13, Swift RB 15, Adrian Peterson RB 41, Kenny Galladay wide receiver 9, and TJ Hawkinson tight end 6. Based on our rankings, seems like we have Peterson fading out of the offense. Usage-wise, that does not track, though. Is this finally the week where Swift gets more carries, or just his production that has us higher than Peterson?
I think it's sort of they're starting to converge. Swift gets another touch or two each week, and his production is limited by Matt Patricia's stubbornness. I do think that Peterson offers you that non-zero floor play. You're going to probably get 5 to 7 points from Peterson, and if you need to make sure you don't get a 0, then Peterson is kind of your start. Swift is that guy where there's everything looks like he should be getting all the touches, and then Matt Patricia goes, "Hey, screw you guys, I'm going home," and gives Swift like 2 touches.
Maybe it's Darrell Bevel.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. Either way, sucks either way. No, I think
was it
Swift
Bevel or Patricia that came out last week and said we're going to start using Swift a lot more, and then
it was Patricia.
So I think with Swift though he's just starting to produce, and it kind of comes down to as long as he doesn't make a mistake and get Stafford killed, I think that they'll get him more touches. They've got to, don't they? I mean, at what they traded for Everson Griffin under the guys that we think we're competing. And if you think you're competing, aren't you going to put your fucking playmakers out there with the ball in their hands?
Hopefully. It also helps Adrian Peterson's missed practice or been limited in practice with an abdominal injury, which also could line us up for a 30 carry on Johnson game, knowing this team. But I'm certainly hopeful. I think part of my optimism is that Swift has looked better with the touches he's getting than Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson, if he gets you a touchdown, then he's probably in running back 2 range. If he doesn't, the yardage that he's getting based on the carries and being in the split is right there in that running back 4 where we have him ranked. So I think that's Swift's at least getting all the passing work, and hopefully they'll have another good showing here against the Colts, get another win, and start that train moving.
Yeah, and kind of what you just
showing. They are showing a move away from Kerryon Johnson. They're narrowing the split more, which, like Matt says, means that we're going to get a 30 carry game from Kerryon this week. But
yeah, to kind of agree with what Fox was saying there on Peterson, that's the reason I'm down on him is because he needs that touchdown. The past couple of weeks, we've seen Swift is getting more work in the red zone, which I think kind of negates that upside you have with Peterson. So I do think that they're going to continue to get him more work. And even if they keep him in, just like we talked about with Gurley, if he's getting you those touchdowns with as bad as every position has kind of looked this year with buys, injuries, and COVID, getting you a couple touchdowns and 10 points is a great floor for an RB2. And most people are not playing Swift as their RB1. So I think for me, that's kind of where Swift's upside comes in for me. I'm with you, Dennis. Me and Matt talked about it yesterday. You trade for Everson Griffin. Clearly, maybe that's what the people were disagreeing with me on. We were saying that they think that they're going to be contenders. Is that we had like people jumping in the chat telling me and Matt that I
picked Matt Patricia as coach of the year and the Lions to win the North. I need them to be frigging contender, okay?
But they make that trade because they think that they're going to contend. Like Dennis said, you've got to get your best players on the field. Swift is better than Peterson. End of story. That was the end of it. Yes, I am taking. I don't remember who I picked. Go ahead. Let me look.
Lions.
I think that's.
I'm taking Detroit as well.
I did. I picked Detroit. All right, so we are all on the Lions bandwagon.
It's my
here.
deep and abiding love of Dennis. We get to see him. We're all back together for the first time in 3 weeks. Can't go against the Lions.
As long as Taylor does good, I'm fine with the Lions winning.
Wait till we get to that Denver game. You're going to be all mad about me.
No, because I already told you that I now think they're going to lose 45-3. We'll save it for sadness for later.
Fournette or Bell, flex PPR.
Bell. Revenge game against the Jets.
I hate the revenge game narrative, but I really feel like Andy Reid is going to let Le'Veon Bell just eat against the Jets this week, so I'm going to go Bell too.
Who's Tampa play?
The Giants on Monday Night Football.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, while there's no revenge narrative there, how much work is Arians going to give his nickel running back?
Yeah.
He's basically said Ronald Jones can't block for shit, and I'm not putting him in there with Brady if we're passing.
Yeah.
So I probably lean Bell, but it's close. I wonder what I ranked him.
While Dennis is looking at his ranks here, 1-5 Vikings versus the 5-1 Packers. For Minnesota, Cook coming in RB4, Thielen wide receiver 6, Jefferson wide receiver 14. Last time these two met, it was a high-scoring game. However, news came out as we were recording. Cook has now been moved to questionable to doubtful. So now all of a sudden, Cook is not looking like he's expected to play like they pronounced earlier in the week. Does that scare you guys at all?
At 1:48 p.m., the Minnesota Vikings on Twitter reported Dalvin Cook has no injury designation for Week 8.
Okay, well, that's just what Sleeper just popped up. So let me see what they said.
From questionable to doubtful to
12 minutes ago, he's been added to their injury report. It's now listed as questionable. That was 12 minutes ago per Sleeper. Again, I don't
wait. Added as questionable.
Though. Added as questionable. Well, he was so Vikings had him with no designation. Then they just added him back on as questionable.
30 minutes later, they put him back on as questionable. What the hell?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good thing. For me, I was going to approach this the same way. So I'll put this. I don't know if you guys know who this is, Dr. Mark Addix. I think Dennis listens to this show in the morning sometimes too. He came on and said with the injury that Cook had, he would not trust him to get the full workload. He still thinks that Alexander Mattison is going to get some work this week. The Packers obviously have an okay defense. Is nothing, to write home about. What are your guys' thoughts on Cook coming back this week? I think if you've got him and you don't have Madison, he's got to go in your lineup. But if you have both of them, what are you doing here?
So here's what the report says from 20 minutes ago. It says Cook is questionable for Week 8 against the Packers. Cook will suit up Sunday against Green Bay. Zimmer said Cook will not have restrictions on playing time after he missed the Week 6 game against Atlanta. Cook getting the Vikings bye week to recover from the groin injury he suffered in Week 5 should be locked into fantasy lineups this week.
So it's clear as mud.
Some of those words aren't matching.
I would still
Aaron Jones,
even if I had both of them. Pour one out for all of our fantasy seasons at this point in time.
Yeah. No, I think Cook is going to play. I expect he'll perform. He's clearly better than Alexander Mattison and Mike Boone. The challenge for me is Thielen, who has done well against Jair Alexander in the past. Maybe they decide to put Alexander on the rookie and double cover Thielen. Maybe that's the approach the Packers take. The thing that worries me, I'm not worried. I'll be honest. I'm not worried about Cook. I'm not worried about Thielen. I'm not worried about Jefferson. I am worried about Kirk Cousins. And if Cousins goes to hell, it screws everybody else.
Yeah, I thought this.
I was muted.
I thought this was a better. This would be probably a passing game back and forth because Minnesota's defense has not looked incredibly impressive. I think Week 1 when they played them was Adams' still his best game of the year, even after he went ham last week. So they're lining up to do that, and then now both teams, maybe Cook plays. Cook had a good game when they played week 1. I believe he scored 2 touchdowns. So
he had over 100 receiving yards in that as well.
Yeah, you would hope he can kind of get going, but that was a little bit before Jefferson started to come on. So I still would wonder if I think Jefferson's still probably a really good play here, because that week 1 of the season was before he kind of started to explode around 3 or 4, and he steadily continued to go up. But
yeah, I mean, and the one thing I'll say on Cousins is, even in that one game where he sucked really bad, he ended up turning around in the second half and having a good game. So if he implodes early, he might still get at least his weapons some points. But yeah, I'm with you guys. I think it's going to be high scoring. Cook, I think you have to play him. He's just one of those guys where you drafted him so early, you can't. If you have Alexander Madison, maybe. But even then, I think you're playing Cook and hope that he stays healthy for the entire game. On a Green Bay side here, so Aaron Rodgers, QB1. We have Adams at wide receiver 1. I ranked Jamal Williams. I think I had him at actually pretty high as well. I have Jamal Williams in at 12 because I did not expect Jones to play. I believe he has now been ruled out. So with him being ruled out, how does he move up in the rankings for you two? I know you guys weren't sure about it. So where do you guys have him ranked now, knowing he is out for good this weekend?
I'll probably have him top 15. Dennis,
you're muted, Dennis.
I have him at 19, and I'm not inclined to move him up.
Okay.
I feel like I probably had him ranked higher than he should have been, but he did look pretty good last week. But I don't know that I expect a top 12 performance out of him. I just don't think that he's necessarily that consistent. I think it'll be more of a game where Rodgers throws the ball a decent amount to. I don't know if they put Dillon in there. I know he hasn't looked great when he's gotten in, and Lord knows if Dillon blows a block and Rodgers gets hit, we may not see him again until January.
Well, go ahead, Matt.
No, I agree with that. This was week 1, wasn't this the big MVS game?
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Time?
Yeah.
So. I was about to ask, because I agree with Dennis. I do think it ends up being a high passing game. We know Adams will get his, but who else do you think steps up? Is it going to be MVS? Is it going to be Richard Rodgers, who we were talking about earlier this week?
Robert Tonyan, because
Robert Tonyan.
Richard,
my goodness,
Robert
I messed that up Tuesday
too. For the Eagles.
That's right, he does play for the Eagles. I messed that up on Tuesday too. Or Jay Sternberger, because we did see him. Didn't he catch a touchdown last week?
He did, but I think that was his only catch on 1 year touchdown.
That's all right. That's all that matters. If you're starting him, he can get you that touchdown.
He's on the Mike Evans. He's on the Mike
Evans
receiving plan.
Because obviously the other good news for the Packers here as well is that Allen Lazard was designated to return from IR, so it doesn't look like that's going to be a season-long injury like we thought. They've got 21 days to bring him back, so he might make his appearance here soon. But if you had to bet in Robert Tonyan or MVS this week to be good as well with Adams, who you guys taking?
I think Adams is going to get 19 targets.
I hope
and
so.
Tonyan and MVS. Tonyan and MVS will each get 4 to 5. Tonyan will go, we'll say, 3 for 60, and MVS will go 1 for 60.
I'm betting on MVS because I think he wants to show they don't need to trade for Will Fuller.
All right. Anybody picking the Vikings to win this one?
Their mothers.
Okay, I figured. I'm out on them as well. I'm taking Green Bay. Next up, the probably most lopsided game of the weekend here. Which means the Jets are going to win it. I have that feeling. The Jets are going to find a way to win this game. Adam Gase is going to save his job. You know it's coming. The 0-7 Jets versus.
Why would you fire Adam Gase when it seems like your chief goal is to get the number 1 draft pick?
Oh, I don't know, but that's why they fire him if he wins this game, because then no, we're winning games. Get him out of here. All right, P. Ryan is really the only player we have ranked. Coming in at RB22, it looks like Crowder is not going to play. Do you guys pair him in out as well? You trusting anybody on this team outside of P. Ryan?
I think there's a strong case for Mims. He came on 4 targets, 4 catches, 42 yards last week. I feel like he has the skill and ability. It'll come. Part of the issue is going to be, I think Becton is out again this week. And with Becton out, that really hampers that offensive line. If Darnold can stay upright and P. Ryan keeps the defense at least a little bit honest, I feel like there's a little chance that either Mims or Braxton Berrios or the ghost of Chris Herndon produce something fantasy worthy this week, and from a desperation play standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, Mims probably is the most appealing to me, but that really depends on where you're at. If your team was comprised of mostly Cardinals and Texans, you're probably in that moment of desperation right now where you're rolling it out there. But what also holds the Jets offense back is their play calling, their coaching, the fact that they're playing a front that has Chris Jones among others. I mean, they could easily cave in. It doesn't matter if you call 25 passing plays if he can only get the ball off 10 times before he gets driven into the ground. It just they're an unappealing team for a lot of reasons. Even Denver last week, which had a healthier line and maybe some more appealing passing targets, had trouble throwing the ball at times against Kansas City and had a lot of trouble keeping people out on the pass rush. They did better running the ball. That's kind of why I thought P. Ryan was the best play.
On Kansas City's side here, we've got Mahomes coming in at QB2, CEH RB9, Bell RB26, Tyreek Hill wide receiver 7, and Travis Kelce tight end 2. As Matt mentioned earlier on the start sit question, revenge game for Le'Veon Bell. Do you say yes or no?
I think from a per touch production standpoint, maybe. But Andy Reid certainly isn't going to say, hey, CEH, take this game off because we want to let Le'Veon Bell get revenge against his former teammates or former head coach. So I still expect – I wouldn't expect Bell to garner more than 35% of the touches anyways. They may do maybe they bring him in short yardage if they're at the goal line because CEH has shown himself to be ineffective. So Bell ends up with a couple short rushing touchdowns. So from that perspective, but the revenge narrative, I don't know. That's I don't want to say it's not real, but I certainly
it's overhyped.
Don't use it necessarily as a data point to determine whether or not I'm going to start somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also a possibility that the Jets allow them to get up, and then last week Bell had 39 yards rushing on just 6 carries. So if he got 10 to 15 plays, it's not out of the realm of possibility he gets 100 yards. They're not very good. And he's probably going to be motivated. I mean, his first carry against what I think is a better defensive front in Denver went for 19 yards last week for Kansas City. So, I think he's going to be motivated. I don't think he needs 30 touches to be able to have a good day. I think they probably will make an effort when they're in the red zone to let him try to get a touchdown. So to me, that makes him a more appealing start, especially deep flex or running back 2 territory.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm kind of with Dennis. I don't necessarily believe in the revenge game narrative, but I do think them bringing him over here and everything the Jets kind of put him through. I would not be surprised a coach like Andy Reid, who is definitely considered a player's coach, doesn't get him out there in some situations to try and get him some touchdowns and just kind of rub it in the Jets' face. I would love to see it happen as well, and I could see it happening. Anybody picking the Jets to win this game? I feel like I need to separate myself somehow to get back past Rob and pick them, but I just can't do it. I'm going.
This is you don't back the Jets to get yourself back and pick them. I'm taking the Chiefs.
I assume Dennis is as well. You got yourself muted, so.
Sorry. I was recording our picks. Yeah, I'm taking
gotcha.
the Chiefs.
Rams Dolphins, the 5-2 Rams versus 3-3 Dolphins here. We've got Goff coming in at QB 17, Darrell Henderson RB 20, Robert Woods wide receiver 20, Cooper Kupp wide receiver 23. What are we expecting from the Rams against Miami?
Miami's playing hard, but they still have some talent deficiencies to overcome. And it's a situation where, while I expect it to be a competitive game, it's Tua's first game, and I think it'll be more from the Dolphins' perspective, a plan to let's just execute what our plan is, and they'll play it a little bit safe. So that's going to put the Rams, Henderson in a position to get some carries because I feel like the Rams are going to be up. Woods and Kupp are, we have them both inside the top 24. They've been typically consistent over the course of their career, and I would expect it to continue. So it'll be the only monkey wrench I see is if McVay decides to suddenly redistribute the running back touches in a new fashion. All of a sudden he decides, hey, we're going to make this we're going to let Cam Akers get 15 carries this game instead of Darrell Henderson. So that's really the only challenge I see there.
Oh, is that my turn? Sorry, I didn't want to share if that was waiting on me. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt and I have talked about a little bit. The Rams are a good NFL team, and they're using all their weapons, kind of spreading the ball around, which has been good for them. For fantasy, that to me makes all their pieces kind of middle of the pack, which is probably reflective of where we have them. They have a couple of good receivers who are probably in the wide receiver 2 range. They have a couple running backs they're going to use who are in the running back 2 to 3 range. I think they'll come out and have a good game. Miami's defense isn't terrible, but hasn't been exceptional either, and I doubt the bye week fixed all that.
Yeah, we've talked about it, as Matt mentioned. I'm big on Darrell Henderson kind of being the guy the rest of this year, so I'm not if you didn't listen to us the other day talk about it, I'm still a little bit worried about this Rams offense. It seems like they're not necessarily making Goff into a game manager, but they're limiting a little bit of what the offense does. They're not quite that throw it 50 times a game like they were a couple years ago. They're more of let their defense, which is actually playing good, play defense, run the ball a little bit, play action pass, have Jared Goff roll out, which is also limiting the upside of their wide receivers. So all in all, I like the offense, but I'm not expecting any of them to be huge for you every single week. There's guys you just have to set in and hope that one of those guys goes off. Miami side is the interesting side here. Tua getting his first start here in the NFL. I will definitely be tuning into this game as much as possible just because I want to see him play, but not a great defense to be getting your first game against. We have him going up as QB 22 this week. Gaskin, RB 44. I'm 14, my goodness. 14.
I was going to say, yeah. I don't think we ranked him quite that well.
Devontae Parker, wide receiver 25, and Mike Gesicki, tight end 19. What are you guys expecting from Tua's day?
Well, I think, like I was saying when I first talked about the Rams, that the Dolphins are going to put in a game plan, and I expect it to be relatively conservative. Aaron Donald is going to be applying the force up the middle, and the Rams have a pretty good defense. So it'll come down to when Tua gets the ball in somebody's hands, will they be able to make a play? I think they're going to want to see him make good decisions, make quick decisions, but I don't think the Dolphins are overly concerned with whether or not they come out with a victory. I think if they get close, obviously they want to win. And if the game is close, they're going to try to win. But they're not going to pull out all the stops and suddenly go 5 wide and start chucking it down the field in an all-out effort to just put up as many points as they can. they're going to try to do the things that they believe Tua does well. Some timing stuff, maybe get him on the rollout a little bit, and continue to run Myles Gaskin, who has been an effective running back this year.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with you, Matt, that I'm just kind of excited to see it. We haven't seen enough from Tua in the NFL to have any real sense of what it's going to be like. But, he's coming off a bye, so they had plenty of time to work on installing and getting things ready that he would feel comfortable with, but that they script a lot of plays to start to try to go out there and know what they're going to do. And it's not the easiest defense to start out against, but they are at home. And I'm just kind of excited to fire him up and see what he looks like.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. What's going on, ISO? Glad you could jump in today. I'm kind of this. I'll tell you right now, this is going to happen because Mike Gesicki talked about this on Wednesday, that him and Tua have had a great connection. He's done a lot of practicing on that second team with Tua. They have a great connection. I knew I should have started him in my tight end over Hayden Hurst this week. I decided not to. Hayden Hurst sucked. Mike Gesicki is going to be awesome. Mike Gesicki's going to score 2 touchdowns this weekend. I'm just letting you know right now. But yeah,
where'd you have Gesicki ranked?
I don't know. I'll look. I know he's coming in at tight end 19. I think I had him. I know I had him higher than that. There we go. My roads are frozen here on wide receivers. So I have Gesicki at tight end 9, believing in.
I have him at 13. So Matt and Ricky must have him way low.
I think part of the problem is I forgot to put some of the bye week players back in at tight end. I realized I forgot
gotcha.
Mark Andrews existed. I forgot Mike Gesicki existed. I was like, no wonder I was having such a hard time ranking tight ends. I forgot about the bye week players.
And ISO, that is exactly why I hate Julio Jones right now, because I was going up against him in a couple leagues, and he put up the 20 points that I did not need him to do this 1 week. I was just asking for 1 week, the week that I played him.
20 points and no touchdown.
Hey, you know what? I was praying every time they got into the touchdown, it wasn't going to him. Every time I was like, nope, that's going to Julio. And they broke it up twice, and I was very happy. Yeah, I really do think Gesicki's going to have a good game here. Like I said, I just want to see Tua play well. It's not a great defense for him to go up against. I'm with Dennis. I think Gaskin's going to be huge here. He's been awesome so far this season. I think that continues. As much as I'd love to see Tua get his first win here, I do not see that happening. I am going with the Rams.
Yeah,
as am I.
Probably the game of the weekend, I think, and this hurts my heart saying that. The 6-0 Steelers versus the 5-1 Ravens. We've got Ben coming in at QB 15, James Conner, RB 11, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 19, Juju Smith-Schuster at wide receiver 28, and Ebron, tight end 16. We've seen in the past couple years, Ben has struggled on the road. Can he do enough to keep the Steelers perfect? And why is Chase Claypool not showing very high in our ranks?
Well, I tend to think that Claypool, well, he's had a couple splash games, is he's the third wide receiver. I do believe he's overtaken James Washington in that outside deep threat contested catch kind of role. But against this Baltimore defense, there's going to be some challenges. They've got their defensive backs are really probably the best set of defensive backs in the game. And I think it's going to be a relatively low scoring game because both of these defenses are really good. So that means they're going to have to grind some of it out with Connor. Deontay Johnson is the guy I think that has – I think Deontay and Juju have Ben's trust as far as catching the ball, but Deontay is the one I think they believe can make the plays. And so it looks to me like, Claypool is the odd man out. He's going to get 5-6 targets, and he could very easily have one of those boom games like he does. But I feel like the Baltimore defense, their coaching, their scheme will probably not let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that a little bit last week with Deontay Johnson back. It seemed like Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Eric Ebron were getting more regular looks. Claypool, probably his best chance is to, get a long bomb and for a touchdown. And against a team like Baltimore, that seems less likely to me than, against some weaker competition. If you knew one of Johnson or Smith-Schuster or somebody was going to miss, I'd bump Claypool up. But right now, that's just kind of where he's at.
Yeah, Matt, because we do the podcast with each other every week here. I've been all about Deontay Johnson. I've talked about him being the one, even when Claypool was blowing up. I think that continues. I could see Claypool getting involved here some, just because that Ravens defense, as I believe Dennis mentioned earlier, are very good at corner, but I don't know if they can cover all three of those guys, and Claypool, Juju, and Deontay, and I wonder if maybe Juju and Deontay get more coverage. As for the question here, I'm thinking about starting Deontay at flex over Rojo. I would probably do that just because I'm more worried about Rojo split with Fournette than I am Deontay's tough matchup. What about you two?
I think it's pretty close to a coin flip. I think Rojo has shown himself to be a good runner. They trust him running the ball. He's not going to really help you much in the passing game. And it'll come down to who gets the goal line rushes in Tampa. If Fournette ends up getting not only the passing down work, but the goal line rushes as well, then that's going to create a big issue for Rojo. I have Johnson as my highest rated receiver in Pittsburgh this week. And so I probably am going to lean Johnson, but by a hair. It's close. It's coin flip territory for me.
Yeah, I'd take Johnson as well.
And since I'm a bad host, and as you guys can clearly see, I'm running around doing like 8 things right now. I did forget to mention our Thrive Fantasy bets, and I do not want to forget that. So we did have one on Mahomes, which was 300.5 passing yards. Would you guys take the over or the under? I am taking the over against the Jets.
I'm taking the under. I think they're going to run more.
I'm going to take the under as well.
All right. And then for Miami, Devontae Parker, 65.5 receiving yards in this one. I'm going to take the under. I think he gets Ramsey more often than Williams. What about you two?
Yeah, between that and the groin injury, I'm taking the under too.
Yeah, and I think the thing that gives me pause the most is we just really don't know who Tua has the chemistry with.
Yeah.
I know Gesicki's like, oh, it's me. But why is your number one tight end spending all your time running second team with your backup quarterback? So I don't know how much I buy into that, or if he's trying to provide this self-fulfilling prophecy to make sure he gets the ball. I probably lean the under on the Thrive Fantasy prop for Devontae Parker. But that could also be my love for Preston Williams.
There's nothing wrong with that. We're all prejudiced against somebody on this podcast. So for the Steelers, I'm with you guys, and I do think Big Ben's going to have to show that he can win on the road, because this run defense for Baltimore just got even better, adding Yannick Ngakoue. I don't think can he play this week, because the trade happened late, didn't it? Or did it happen?
It happened last week.
Okay, so he should be on the field then. So, yeah, Connors looked good, but I don't expect him to have a huge game here, which means they're going to have to rely on passing the ball, which means Big Ben's going to have to come through. Thrive bet in this one, James Conner, 72.5 rushing yards, over or under. It's actually a really good number. I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, I think unless Conner gets hurt, I think he's going to get it, because it's going to be a close game. And they're gonna, they'll be balanced enough in offense that they can put Conner in position to be able to make some plays. I know that Calais Campbell in there, and Brandon Williams. I'm not sure if he's back from the COVID list or not. Baltimore does definitely have some good run defense, but Pittsburgh has shown the willingness to pound their lead back, and even in tough situations, because they expect when they need a play made, somebody's going to make it. So they're not afraid to end up in a 3rd and 6, because they feel like Ben can get them 6 yards somehow.
Deontay Johnson. Let's hope it's Deontay Johnson doing that, because I need him again this week as well. For Baltimore's side, we've got Lamar coming in at QB4, Gus Edwards at RB33, although I have J.K. Dobbins higher. Just want to point that out. Marquise Hollywood Brown coming in at wide receiver 27, and Mark Andrews coming in at tight end 8. Looks like Ingram is going to miss as he did not practice again today. Looks like, I can't assume you guys like Edwards more, but he came up higher in our consensus rankings. So how are you capping the Edwards-Dobbins backfield?
I'm trying to take a look at that right now.
I ranked Edwards higher. It seemed like when Ingram went out 2 weeks ago, Edwards was the guy that they gave to try to pound the ball and to get into the goal line territory. And I would expect that is going to continue. I think both of them will get used, but that's probably where they're going to go.
So I have Dobbins at 30 and Edwards at 40. And I think the argument I would make for that is that on a normal week of preparation, you've got Ingram taking a lot of the work because he is your starter. Well, Ingram hasn't been participating much, and I feel like it's been a week where Dobbins has been prepared to take on a bigger role. And if I have to bet on whether I think Dobbins or Edwards is going to make more plays, I'm going to take Dobbins. I think Dobbins is much better pass catcher, a more dynamic runner. I think in this offense, if Edwards got 20, 25 carries a game, I think he would be very, very productive. But I think Dobbins would be more productive in that same situation. So I'm going to take Dobbins here.
As did I. And I know, Matt, we talked about this the other day. That's what I mentioned was the bye week. I thought that could be big for Dobbins taking over in the backfield. We've seen him getting a little bit more work here and there. I kind of mentioned it with DeAndre Swift, where we saw once they came out of that bye week, all of a sudden Swift had that big game. I could see that happening with Dobbins here as well. They've finally kind of given him the torch because, as we mentioned on there as well, their carries have been like almost side and side, the three of them, when all three have been on the field. But Dobbins has been the most productive, and yet they refuse to give him the ball. Now that they've gone into the bye week, give him a little bit more time to get some more practice in with Ingram being out. Dobbins comes out and takes over this backfield. I'm still not expecting a huge game from him just because he's going up against that Steelers defense, but I do think he becomes the lead back. Who are you guys picking to win this one? Does Pittsburgh stay undefeated?
Yeah, I'm picking Pittsburgh to win it, but just as a note, so Ingram has 30 carries. Edwards, where'd it go? Ingram has 50 carries. Edwards 48. Dobbins 25. But Dobbins has 14 targets to Ingram's 5 and Edwards 3. So from a playing time perspective, I would expect it to be a fairly even split this week, but Dobbins will see a spike in his carries, whereas I don't expect Edwards to see a spike in his targets. But I took Pittsburgh.
I took Pittsburgh as well.
And on the Thrive bet for this one, is Mark Andrews going to get over 57.5 receiving yards? I am saying yes.
I'll take the over too.
Man, he's got to start producing more yardage, doesn't he?
What did you guys think of the I guess Boyle is listed above him on the depth chart this week.
Yeah. Maybe because he's a better blocking tight end. That's the only thing I can think of. I expect them to want to come out and run the ball. I think that's been one of the biggest issues with their offense, as I've kind of stated on here. I think the fact that they have not been running it as well with their running backs or Lamar has kind of hindered that offense a little bit. 2-4 Chargers at the 2-4 Denver Broncos. We've got Herbert coming in at QB6, Justin Jackson coming in at RB25, Joshua Kelly at RB28, Keenan Allen wide receiver 8, and Hunter Henry tight end 9. Herbert has been on fire. Does that continue against a fairly decent Denver defense?
I think so.
Sadly, probably.
Hey, I think so too. I think I have him at QB3. So
Herbert he's looked the part. He's very mobile. So when there's pressure, he tends to be able to get out of it and not take a lot of unnecessary sacks. I think he's doing well when the running isn't there. He avoids the sack, and when the running isn't there, he gets rid of the ball so he doesn't take an unnecessary hit. Guyton has stepped up. Keenan Allen is doing what Keenan Allen does. The running backs could probably be a little more productive. And Hunter Henry hasn't been quite as productive as I think we would have liked. Mike Williams has been a disappointment, but I think Jalen Guyton in Williams' absence seems to have stepped up. I'm curious to see if Donald Parham carves out a definite role in this offense. When you're 6'8" and 250 pounds and run a 4.65, I mean, those are measurables you can't teach. And I've seen Parham flash a little bit, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, this could be the week that Denver fans miss Philip Rivers.
Yeah, I'm all in on Herbert. I mean, you guys already know I love the kid. I expect a good game out of him. Denver here, we've got Melvin Gordon coming in at RB19 and Noah Fant coming in at tight end 7. Locke has struggled since returning from injury. Can he get it turned around against a softer Chargers defense?
I will say real bad news that seems to be coming out of Denver today. Graham Glasgow has COVID and is out. And they said there's 2 people that are now quarantining. I have to imagine those are also members of the starting offensive line group. Philip Lindsay doesn't look like to me, I don't think he's clearing the concussion protocol. And now Denver protected the wide receivers it has on its practice squad, which tells me Tim Patrick's not going to play. So signs point to no being the answer to the Drew Lock question.
So Melvin's going to get 40 carries, huh?
And he's probably going to fumble the ball 5 fucking times.
He'll fumble the ball 3 times and rush for 60 yards. Yeah. So fade Denver if you can this week is what we're saying.
Yes, and also fade spending time with me on Sunday afternoon as I slog my way through that game while I'm doing laundry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, no, I was going to pick the Chargers anyways, but now that you've told me all that, I am definitely going with the Chargers. Who are you guys taking?
I've already picked Denver and Prince, so stick with.
Hey, I love the commitment. I'm the same way. Browns could be going up against the Chiefs next week, and I'm putting the Browns in the win column. Next up, the 4-2 Saints versus the 5-2 Bears. On New Orleans side here, we've got Kamara coming in at RB1 and Jared Cook coming in at tight end 11. It looks like Michael Thomas is trending toward playing. If he does, do you trust putting him in your lineup, and where would you rank him this week, as none of us have him ranked at the moment?
I mean, you've got to play him if he plays. I mean, you've got to play Thomas if he plays. I just don't know how you don't. So if he does play, I'm probably going to slot him in somewhere around 10 or 12 or 14 with trepidation. But if he's on the field, he's the number 1 target.
If he plays, I'm playing him. I'm slotting him in low-end wide receiver 1 and just hoping for Dennis's 100 target, 75 reception plan.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If they say he's playing, he's going into my lineup. He's just too good not to be in there. And I'd imagine at worst he's going to produce maybe a wide receiver 15 game, which is still better than the player you're probably inserting in place of him. So he's going in your lineup. Chicago side here, news did just get worse earlier while we were recording. I figured I'd wait till we got to the game. Montgomery coming in at RB16, Graham tight end 12. Robinson not only looks like a long shot, it looks like he's definitely missing this game. He is still in concussion protocol as of today. With him being out, is there a wide receiver you would trust to play, or is it just Graham and Montgomery?
I'm all aboard the Darnell Mooney train. I've pulled Robinson out of my ranks. I do not expect him to play, and I have Darnell Mooney at wide receiver 25.
Very nice.
Mooney is probably the one I would trust more than Miller, but to me, he'd still be a lower end flex. I don't think I would have him as high as Dennis does.
I think I might have him close. I know I have him ranked. I was trying to pull that up really quick because I'm with that defense has not looked good. I could easily see him jumping up. Where do I have him? So I have him. Oh, I only have him at 45, so I don't have him that high. But I have him at 45 right now with Allen Robinson for sure being out. I'll probably jump him up to 30, maybe into the low end 20s. I do like Mooney. He's looked good. He's a guy that I've actually stashed on a couple of my dynasty rosters now. So I do think that he has a real shot there once they get a good quarterback. But I think that's the biggest thing that's going to hold them back. We kind of saw that Monday night against the Rams. That good defensive front had Nick Foles kind of panicking and scrambling around as much as possible, couldn't get the ball to his receivers. I would argue that the Saints front is almost just as good. So that's kind of what worries me the most about this game.
All right, so let's play a little either or. So
Okay.
Darnell Mooney or Devontae Parker?
Parker.
The Darnell Mooney or Corey Davis?
Oh, Mooney. I don't trust Davis ever.
Corey Davis.
Mooney or Ruggs?
Mooney.
Yeah, Mooney.
Mooney or Schuster?
Ooh.
I'm definitely playing Juju.
Mooney. And I don't feel good saying that either. I really don't.
You know, when he has one catch for 2 yards on Monday, I hope we clip the audio of this and just play it back.
I will. Hey, look, I love Juju. You know I love Juju, but that matchup, he has not looked good this year. I mean, Mooney's going to be the one, I think, on the field for the Bears.
And
Mooney,
what does that really mean? Allen Robinson's an elite talent and barely got 10 points last week.
Oh, yeah,
come on.
Good secondary, though.
Mooney or CD Lamb?
Lamb.
Moody?
I did not rank Allen Robinson, and I had Mooney in the 40s. So
I just don't trust Ben DiNucci.
But Allen Robinson is wide receiver 11 on the season?
Yeah.
Going into this week?
Something like that.
So, Mooney is going to absorb a good portion of those targets. I mean, it's not going to be Riley Ridley or the ghost of Jimmy Graham.
I don't know.
Miller, Mooney, and Montgomery.
If you go back and look at that game, and it's not even just that game, you go back and look at multiple games, how wide open he's got Nick Foles has missed him, which I guess you could then argue, well, that's Nick Foles is missing him. He's not putting up the points, but eventually he's going to connect on one of those. And I just don't think this Saints defense is good. They've gotten better throughout the year, but they're still not a good pass defense like they were last year. So I trust Nick Foles and Mooney connect on one big play, and that makes your day. I mean, I don't see that coming from Juju. I don't see it coming. Well, I guess it could happen with Ruggs because that's what he does. But for me, that's what I'm going.
It's going to end up coming from Ted Ginn Jr.
Well, when Trubisky starts the second half, you'll be able to feel a lot better about things going forward with the Bears and Darnell Mooney and Anthony Miller.
Yeah.
Bears fans just blocked our show on Twitter.
All right, so with us knowing that now, it looks like Mitchell Trubisky is going to come in at halftime. Who are you picking to win, the Saints or the Bears?
Saints.
Yeah,
Saints.
I got the Saints. All right, 49ers Seahawks, 4-3 49ers versus 5-1 Seahawks. We've got McKinnon coming in at RB24, Ayuk wide receiver 22, Kittle at tight end 1. Are you trusting in playing McKinnon this week with a report that I just saw earlier today that there's a chance Tevin Coleman does play this week?
And McKinnon is suffering from tired legs, is what they said. So,
I mean, he's had 2 years off. He's still tired.
Well, he's got to get back into game shape. My concern with Coleman is very much like last week with McKinnon. Everything looks normal going into it, and then Coleman plays 3 plays, and Shanahan goes, "Oh yeah, that was our plan all along."
Yeah.
But it could also, any one of those running backs could get 15 carries for 120 yards at any given time. It's such a crapshoot there. I think unless McKinnon, I'd have to think McKinnon is going to be the 2 behind Hasty and Coleman, unless we hear more glowing practice reports about Coleman the rest of this weekend. I'd be hesitant to start McKinnon as anything more than a deep flex, and Coleman even after lower than that.
Yeah, I mean, running back roulette in San Francisco is always tough, but with Mostert out, Wilson out, I'm not sure that Coleman comes back. That's not what I would want to bank on. So McKinnon feels like the best shot right now. but it's hard to trust any of them. It's hard to trust the rotations that they're using in San Francisco. Maybe it was the plan to rest him all along last week, but that certainly seemed like a surprise, and that certainly seemed like a convenient answer in a press conference.
All right, on Seattle's side here, we've got Wilson coming in at QB3. Carlos Hyde, well, I guess we should change that. Carlos Hyde probably not playing. Metcalf, wide receiver 5. Tyler Lockett, wide receiver 13. With Hyde likely to miss, what are we expecting from DJ Dallas and Travis Homer?
So is he now likely to miss? Because they just said he was questionable.
The stuff I saw earlier today, and me and Dennis can't say why, but let's just trust the source that trust us that DJ Dallas is going to get a big workload this week.
I saw the same thing you did.
Okay. Oh yeah. I keep forgetting. Yeah. So DJ Dallas in for a big workload this week. What are we expecting from him and Travis Homer?
Homer's banged up now too.
Yeah, I think Hyde is healthier. I think Hyde is healthier than Homer. I think
Hyde's healthier than Homer.
Wow.
I think Hyde gets the start. I think Homer is going to be the change of pace back in the receiving back. Not Homer, Dallas.
Dallas.
Yeah. It won't surprise me if it breaks down like this, that Dallas plays 60% of the snaps, Hyde gets 50% of the carries, and Dallas gets 80% of the targets for the running back, which will lead to Dallas having the bigger workload. But Hyde is a reliable, dependable, if unspectacular pro NFL running back. He's good in the pass blocking game. He's a tough runner. He's going to gut it out, and he just is. He's reached that level in his career, kind of where Adrian Peterson was the last 3 or 4 years before he got to this year, where it's not quite as good. But Hyde is, he's in that Frank Gore stage now. He's going to come in. He's going to give you 4 yards a carry. He might not carry the ball 25 times, but if you need a game out of him to carry the ball 25 times, he's going to get you 90 yards on 25 carries and a touchdown. He's going to do all the right things. And so long as that hamstring holds up just enough, I expect it to be a fairly even split with the carries. Dallas probably will be the more productive from a fantasy standpoint, unless Hyde is the one pounding the ball into the end zone.
So, it's ironic to me that both of the times that we've had Chris Carson injured this season, Carlos Hyde also got injured because that worked out real well for them, bringing somebody over. He looked good displacing him last week, but the teeth of the San Francisco defense is their front. Their secondary has struggled a lot more, and the power of the Seahawks offense has been in the passing game. So I think more than anything, this is a continuation of let Russ cook.
Well, I definitely think that they're going to pass the ball to open up running opportunities. The majority of the injuries the San Francisco defense has taken on has been to their defensive line. They've lost 2 of their 4 starters at the defensive line, one of which is arguably the best defensive lineman in the NFL. So it kind of offsets each other. The Seahawks, they pass to set up the run now. That's what their offense has become. And they do it probably just about better than anybody else. So it's going to provide the opportunity. Do I expect the Seahawks to rush the ball 35 times? I think we're probably looking 13 carries for Hyde and 8 carries for Dallas, and then maybe eight targets for Dallas.
Who are you guys picking to win this game, the Seahawks or the 49ers?
Seahawks.
As am I. Sunday night game, the 2-4 Cowboys at the 2-4-1 Philadelphia Eagles. We've got Zeke coming in at RB5, Amari Cooper at wide receiver 17, CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 26. Are you expecting any kind of competence out of this Cowboys offense with now Ben DiNucci in at quarterback?
Oh, there's still a chance for Andy Dalton. They said if he can practice on Saturday, he's going to play. So even the Cowboys are holding out hope they don't have to experience the Ben DiNucci era. Well,
if Cooper Rush has been quarantining this whole time, maybe he makes it through accelerated COVID program. Now, I think, DiNucci, he's a small school guy, and we don't really know anything about him. It's not like he can be a whole lot worse than what Dalton has been playing. DiNucci may go out there and Gardner Minshew YOLO it and be like, what the hell do I have to lose?
Well, he really has nothing to lose.
Exactly. So, he hits a couple passes and the defense has to go, hold on, because Philadelphia's defense isn't all that. They definitely have some issues at the defensive back position. So I definitely think that Zeke is going to have to move the ball effectively to provide DiNucci with a semblance of balance to keep the Philadelphia defense on their toes. So it's going to be an interesting game between two teams that are largely disabled on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. Zeke, we understand the passing game's taken some hits. Their line obviously has taken some hits, but Ezekiel Elliott has not looked like the same explosive player, especially the last 3 games, which is when they've arguably needed him the most. If he can kind of snap back, that will open up some more space. I'm still probably playing Cooper because even with terrible passing numbers last week, he still got 7 for 80. That's still a decent floor. But they're big-time weapons. If you have other options, that's where you might consider them.
Yeah, I mean, we all have Zeke high, but he's the one that worries me the most, if I'm being honest, because I feel like defenses are going to be able to key in on him, and I think that's the best part of the Eagles' defense. You can pass on them. You can't necessarily run on them as easily. That's what worries me about Zeke. I want him to be really good, but I just don't know if he is going to be. On Philly's side here, we've got Wentz coming in at QB5, Boston Scott, RB13, Travis Fulgham at 24. Jalen Reagor is expected to play. With him being back, that should help Wentz carry this offense a little bit more. What are you expecting from Wentz and Jalen Reagor this Sunday night against a bad Cowboys defense?
I think that they're going to slot Reagor into the Deshaun Jackson role. And while he may be more versatile than that, Greg Ward and Travis Fulgham have shown that they can pick up the slack when it comes to the short and intermediate passing game. Richard Rodgers has looked probably better than Zach Ertz looked all season. And Rodgers is more of a catch and fall tight end. But he's been getting open in the zone. Fulgham looks like the real deal, though, on the small sample size. He's looking good, and Greg Ward is using his understanding of offenses learned from playing quarterback in college to be able to find holes in the zone. So if those two can produce underneath and pull those safeties up, I will not be the least bit surprised if Carson Wentz takes 2 or 3 deep shots with Jalen Reagor and hits at least one of them.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to get him involved. We talked about it a little bit yesterday when it became clear he was going to go in. As much as we make fun of these teams, this is actually a battle for first place in the division. Cowboys defense has not been very good. Carson Wentz has looked pretty good against better defenses with fewer weapons than what he's going to have this week. Fulgham's come on. Ward's been doing well. Rager's going to be back. Boston Scott's look like a capable fill-in. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles win this one pretty handily.
Yeah, goes back to what we talked about yesterday with Reagor when we thought Reagor might come back. Fulgham, I think, gets the better matchup here because he's been so good, which means, as Dennis mentioned, Reagor possibly gets one of those big touchdown plays. Need it big time now with A-Rob going out. Rager's the guy I have to slot in now, knowing A-Rob's likely not going to play. So hoping for a big game from Reagor here, and I'm taking the Eagles to beat the Dallas Cowboys. What about you guys?
I'm also taking the Eagles.
I have the Eagles as well.
Last game of Week 8, the 5-2 Buccaneers at the 1-6 Giants, if you want to call it a game. Brady, QB9, Ronald Jones, RB18, Leonard Fournette, RB23, Mike Evans, wide receiver 16, Gronkowski, tight end 5. No Godwin this week and no AB either. Are we expecting finally a wide receiver? I guess he's had another wide receiver 1 week from Mike Evans.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of shares of Evans. Maybe I don't have any. I don't know. It's Scotty Miller is the one that's putting a monkey wrench in everything. Evans he's reliable at what he does, but he needs a certain amount of space to do it. And I don't know if he's fully healthy. I know he's been struggling with some leg injuries, and big guys tend to have a lot of trouble. They don't come back from leg injuries as quickly. And he's now 27, 28 years old. He's still good. He's still really good. And I think he's going to be a difference maker in some games. But we've seen Tyler Johnson show out a little bit. Scotty Miller, definitely. And Rob Gronkowski's starting to show flashes of the old Gronk. It's a little bit like Toby Keith. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. You just don't know when that's going to be. You just don't know when that's going to be for Gronkowski.
Yeah, I think Evans will be better this week. I think if nothing else, he'll probably go back to getting a goal line catch. I think he had an incredible streak of catching touchdowns that went back to last season that kind of got snapped last week. But the bigger question for me with all of these passing weapons is the Giants aren't very good. The Giants also had one of their premier offensive linemen go on the COVID list and had to quarantine the rest of the starters. We don't know who's coming back. The Buccaneers could easily get up pretty well and just turn the ball over to Jones and Fournette and be happy to cruise. That way they've done that in a couple of games this year. I think that could be more of a danger to Evans than the other receiving competition.
Yeah, honestly, that's kind of what I'm expecting. In this one, I don't expect it to be much of a game here. For the Giants, we've got Shepard at 30, wide receiver 33, and Slayton at wide receiver 42. I mean, do you feel safe starting either one of them or no? I mean, I can't see starting anybody outside of those two.
Well, we play in some very deep leagues. And so I think for the most part, if we have these guys, we're probably starting them in a flex spot, third or fourth flex. And given what we expect the game script to be, the Buccaneers up by 3 scores, that Jones is going to have to try to make plays down the field with throwing the ball. I'm definitely not going to start any running backs. I'm not starting Freeman, not starting Gallman.
Freeman may not even play. He's not practicing still, so it could be.
All right. Well, I'm not starting Gallman. I'm not starting Lewis. Anymore, it seems like I hesitate to start Evan Ingram even when I know they're going to be passing because Ingram is stinking up the joint. But Shepard and Slayton, in a blowout, they could each turn in close to 100-yard games and maybe a touchdown.
Yeah, so Shepard went back on the injury report, which is a little bit of a blow, but it looked like based on last week, he's probably the bet that I feel the safest going there.
That's like his summer home, the injury report. That's kind of where Shepard lives in his offense.
It's like Ingram's summer home is dropping the ball. It really, we'll have to see what linemen end up getting to come in. I don't have a lot of faith in the Giants, period. Even if Freeman played, you wouldn't want a running back because their line's damaged, and the Buccaneers are incredible against the run. They also had a pretty ferocious pass rush. Given Daniel Jones' proclivity to turn the ball over, I'm fading them pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw out of Shepard last week. I hope that he can continue doing that moving forward. I don't really trust Slayton. I've kind of pulled him out of all my lineups. He's kind of become matchup based for me. I like him, but with as bad as that offensive line has looked, and then again, as I mentioned with Matt before, when Saquon Barkley went down, I think that's kind of been the biggest issue with their offense, not being able to run the ball has affected Slayton as well. So Sterling Shepard is kind of the only guy that I trust, and I am taking the Bucs to win this game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Buccaneers, and we could even tell that Dennis on mute was taking the Buccaneers because no one in their right mind's taking the Giants.
Yeah. All right.
That would be correct.
There's a Thrive bet on that game. I'm sorry. I've got so much stuff going on. This is driving me insane. Was it that game or nope? It was the Sunday night game. Good God. Wentz, 255.5 passing yards, over or under?
Over.
The only thing that gives me pause is if they get up and they're not throwing the ball. But I think 255.5 is probably fairly comfortable for Wentz. It'll be.
I took the over.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I'll take the over as well. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't think you said anything. All right. So that will do it for us today. Me and Matt will be back on Monday to recap all of these games. Hopefully I'll be moving to like 3 and 4 in most of my leagues or something like that. Cause it's been a bad year again for me. Outside of that, good luck in all of your fantasy matchups, and we will talk to you guys again on Monday.